Today, the Below Average Joe's MMA show present Verbal Sparring. The show where me and Dominic go head to head. We will not use our fists, however, we will use our words to try to defeat the other in word-to-word combat.
Oh, trademark pending on that phrase.
Yeah, sometimes we may team up, and others we may be at odds with the likes of questions such as, Jake Paul, is it good for the PFL? Who's more likely to reclaim their title, Adesanya or Usman? And the rumors of Bellator being up for sale. Would you rather see them on network TV or on a streaming service? All this and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us for the... How many times have we done verbal sparring now?
We had a lot. Well, a lot.
Welcome I know January it used 6th. To be... I was about to say the episode number, and I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't an episode number. Verbal sparring's been around a while.
It has.
Formerly called Reddit Roundtable. We changed the name to Verbal Sparring. I think it's a needed change. But regardless, I think we've done Verbal Sparring as that has been the name probably like 5 or 6 times now. So that means we've probably done this over double-digit times, I would say, overall. Yeah. So you guys, if you've been around for a while, you kind of know what this concept is. Me and Dominic, we're going head-to-head, or we're teaming up, whichever. But basically, we have a list of questions that we have found out there from you in the community. We go out into the world. We search on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, the internet, everywhere and anywhere that you can find the YouTube comments. What a cesspool that is. But
yeah, can be.
We find it. We try to find a solid group of questions that the MMA community is wondering about. And we're here to give you the answers.
Yes.
The end-all, be-all. Your question ends here. There's no need for another opinion. It's like when the doctor tells you, like, that lump on your balls ain't nothing, and you're like, ooh, I think I should get a second opinion. Nope, we're telling you there's nothing wrong with that lump on your balls. We're the end-all, be-all.
What a comparison there to start today's show.
But Dominic, it's good to be back here with you. Me and you have actually... If you're not aware, me and Dominic have both been pretty busy boys on the YouTube scene, even if it might feel like things on this specific show have maybe, obviously with the lack of events, have not been the most lively. But that's because me and Dominic have both started our own separate ventures under the Below Average Joe's banner.
Yes.
So Dominic, Battling for Bogey episode 1, or the first episode of Battling for Bogey, released on Battling for Bogey's very own YouTube channel Wednesday. And then yesterday, on this channel, the Below Average Joe's, my This Weekend in Sports podcast launched, and so far so good.
Yes, amen.
Yeah, so excited to just kind of get it going. I was telling Dom off recording, I got a lot of improvements I'm excited to make going into the second week, but just happy to kind of get it out there. I've been planning for so long, and Dominic has too. He's had all these episodes in the bank, just sitting on it. Yes. So it feels like a weight's off the shoulders to just kind of get it out there, get it going.
Yeah, it's out there. The content expansion has begun. It's a big year for the Below Average Joes in 2023. What way to start the new year with new forms of content, and we're finishing the first week of the year with verbal sparring. Dare I say it's a perfect week, Noah. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, we will be a week away from MMA action returning with Nasruddin Imavov taking on Kelvin Gastelum in the main event next Saturday. But you guys will actually be getting 2 episodes that week because next Monday, go ahead and just say it now, have another retro Cage Side Rewind. I
There we go.
don't know why I want to say Retro Rewind. Cage Side Rewind,
Mm-hmm.
where me and Dominic go future to the back and we review an MMA card from the past, present, or future, but mostly the past.
Right.
But we will not say what that card will be. You have to tune in to find out. But we recorded ahead of time, so good on us, right? Planning
Yep.
ahead.
Of
But
course.
be on the lookout for that on Monday, and then of course Friday, your regularly scheduled programming with the weekend preview will be back.
Yes.
A
Fights are
lot's
back.
happened. A lot's happened this week. Maybe some things that were almost kind of like, whew, dodge the
Yeah.
bullet talking about that one because
Yeah.
yeah, some of this shit, man, it ain't pretty. And like you got the shit like Anthony Rocco Martin's trying to burn down the
I
fucking
saw
Ali
that. I
Abdel.
saw
Yeah,
that.
like what's going on with that? Like coming
Dude.
after Kayla?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's been a.
Can't come
It's only
after Middletown, Ohio's finest.
Listen, man, we're 6 days into 2023, and there's been more drama, I feel like, this year than the past 6 months in MMA. It's been insane.
Yeah, you got the Dana White video coming out, and then the only response has been that TBS has pushed back his Power Slap League 1 week. I'm like, man, I'm like, it's just kind of crazy. Like, what was funny about that, and we'll get into this. It's the situation not very funny, but
No.
in terms of the aftermath, there were some articles coming out saying like, "Ooh, TBS might cut ties completely with this whole Power Slap League. We knew it was supposed to start here
Yeah.
soon." And we were kind of like, "Oh shit! Like, could there be some sort of breadcrumb trail or ripple effect where this is kind of the start, and then maybe he has some sort of punishment in his job as president of the UFC?" I saw these articles saying that, and not even like 2 hours later, they announced they were pushing it back 1 week. 1 week.
week.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Who knows?
interesting. But,
Yeah.
anyways, that's not why we're here. We're here to go through the list of questions that we have for today. Tune in next Friday if you want to know more about those kind of issues. This is verbal sparring. Yeah, we like to get heated, but we like to keep things a little more, I don't know, what's the word, light, a little
Yeah,
more.
not a ton of news on these shows
Yeah.
either.
So
It's
next
kind of for a little-
Friday, and be aware that next Monday when we're going through that Cage Side Rewind, that was recorded before everything that's happened this week.
Yeah, that was before everything.
So just be aware of that. I'm not sure if we even say anything regarding
Yeah.
any of the individuals involved, but just know that. But Dominic, are you ready to get into it? I think I've gotten everything out of the way I needed to say.
I am, and the first question is breaking news piece from the day we're recording this. So this is going to
Yeah,
be
so I guess saying we don't break news on here is, but this is going to be a little bit of a fun one because Dominic, our good friend Jake Paul,
yeah.
is officially signed to the PFL. I'm not gonna lie. When I woke up to this, our good friend Jake sent this in our group chat on Twitter.
Yeah.
I had to rub out the eyes. I had to go
Yep.
take a piss, and I came back to it. And I'm like, man,
It's
I
still
really
there.
did read that, huh?
Yeah.
So the question is, Dom, I'm going to keep it simple. I'll let you go into whatever direction you want to go because there's a lot of details in this contract. Maybe some that we don't even know as of now. But basically, the question is this a good move for all parties involved?
Yeah, this is a lot to unpack here. I went to read, it was a New York Times article, was like the initial article too, which I thought was interesting. So he has signed with the PFL to be in the super fight division, that their pay-per-view division that they're starting in 2023. He's also has an official role with the company. I have it pulled up just so I don't screw anything up too bad. Head of Fighter Advocacy. That is his fancy title. It says, though, he's going to post on social media about the PFL to all of his followers and such like that for league strategies and whatnot for pay-per-views, yada, yada, yada. What struck me, though, the most was that it was kind of, and I'm paraphrasing here from this article, but they kind of mentioned that, and this was on the PFL side of the deal, the Super Fight League wasn't necessarily, they're not aiming to get the biggest names on their rosters together, like a Locknane versus Burgos or Kayla versus whoever, right? They're more so just worried about bringing in people with big names and putting them on the card. Hence why they signed Jake Paul here. And I found that very interesting. And it makes me a little worried, Noah, because I was under the intention last year that this super fight division was going to be the biggest and best fights that they could put on as possible. And yes, I'm sure they will still do that to a certain extent. But if they're also just going to sign random one offs or bring in influencers that have boxed and now want to try MMA, that's where I don't like the direction that it could go here. I don't hate this though for Jake Paul at all. I mean, what is this guy has been talked about so much in the MMA space, and the fact that he has an official deal and job with the PFL, he is going to compete. And he even stated he wants to box Nate Diaz and then turn around 4 to 6 months later and compete with Nate Diaz in MMA on a
Offered
PFL
him the
super fight
contract.
card. Yes, and offered a contract to him. Wow. So I just spit off a lot of things there. There's a lot of directions we can take this question. But all in all, is this a good move for all parties? I'm going to say yes until proven guilty, Noah. And you probably didn't expect me to say that, but now I'm just ready to hear what you say.
I'm surprised we're on the same page with this one. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen.
But I actually might go a step further than you.
Okay.
Let me tread lightly though. There's a lot that still needs to be, I think, wait and see a little bit, but that's obviously not what we're doing here. We want to go out on a limb, put ourselves out there. I think it's more fun that way. I think this is a pretty much can't. I keep going back and forth as I'm talking. Like, I'm trying to figure out which party benefits more. Like, who do I think has the higher ceiling of making out well in this deal? Part of me wants to say it's PFL because you signed, dare I say, the biggest active name in combat sports. That kind of hurt to say, but I mean, it's,
hurt to hear.
At least the guy that's being talked about the most. He has the a lot of clout on social media. He has a lot of pull in that direction. So having him, who has, whether we like it or not, he's proven he can beat older MMA fighters who were once great, like Anderson Silva, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley. After the Anderson Silva win, I said I'm done kind of throwing the shade at him. Like, I understand Anderson was old, but you beat Anderson Silva, who had still shown to hold a good account of himself, even at his age in a boxing ring. Can't really say anything. Yeah. So since he's kind of proven to at least be somewhat talented, given his relative inexperience and lack of time doing this, I think it makes. I really think the PFL can't lose in this deal.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, because truthfully, I think where me and you differ the most is you were worried about, what this means for that PFL pay-per-view super fight division, kind of the legitimacy of that division.
Right.
Truthfully, I see what you're saying, but I was very concerned at all that they were implementing this, because I looked around at the roster and I said, who is really going to be carrying the bulk of these sales here, these sales, these buys? Yeah. Is it a guy like Anthony Pettis? Is it Brendan Loughnane? Is it Kayla Harrison? Like, the PFL tried with their finals. I don't know how it went, but I'm just going to assume that not a ton of people bought it at the price and whatnot. So I think this is kind of a necessity for the PFL if they actually want this idea of a PFL super fight pay-per-view division to work at all. Because I'm sorry, as much as I want to see Brendan Loughnane versus Shane Burgos, and hopefully it is on a pretty big card, I don't think that fight's selling. I don't know. I don't think it's selling 60, 70,000 buys.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think it is. So in terms of the legitimacy, I get what you're saying, like it being like just a legitimate aspect of their high level sport. It feels
Hmm.
more like a sideshow,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't think them I don't think they will be affected too much by, you know, I don't think people will get too held up on the fact that, well, if you watch PFL, they just have all these sideshow fights. Like there's no real fighters there. Like I don't know if people are really going to get held up on that. Like yes, even if the biggest fights that get put on pay per view aren't really the highest level of fights, you still have an
Mm.
entire season. You still have the Challenger Series, which I hope is better this year. If you're
Yep.
over in Europe, you got PFL Europe as well.
Yep.
So
Very
there's
true.
a lot that the PFL is doing that caters to the hardcore fans and those diehards, those people that want more MMA in their life. But then you also just have something for more of your casual side and people that would be willing to shut out money. Jake Paul, like him or not, is probably going to bring a lot of eyes to this product. And I think it's a
Yeah.
can't lose deal for PFL. The only thing that could get interesting is the PFL. I'm pretty sure part of this deal is they're giving 50% of the revenue from these cards to the
Yep.
fighters,
Yep. The super fight division. Yep.
which
I've
I
read.
think we should be celebrating and excited about. But I also recognize this is like one of the first times we've seen this in MMA.
Yeah.
And my only concern is this the first time we're going to see it, or one of the first times for a reason? Like, is this just
Like, is this
truly
sustainable?
like as much as grief as we've given Dana White and the UFC brass for, always kind of keeping their pay to like under that 20% of revenue or whatever it is? Are we going to find out that really that's kind of the key to having
Mhm.
a business
The
that can
business. Yeah.
be so massive and really carry the sport? Can an MMA promotion really afford to have a model similar to one of the big sports in the world? We're going to
Right.
find out. That's the
Right.
only thing I think that could fuck up this deal for the PFL is if it just isn't financially in their interest to really do it. But for Jake Paul, I don't see why this would hurt him at all either. Of course, you have the. I'm not even so sure, Dom. I'm not confident that we will ever actually see him compete in PFL.
I'll say this at least. If he does, to be honest, him even regardless win or lose, and I would expect him to lose to a vast majority of people that he would potentially go up against in MMA. He's him going out and just competing, choosing to compete in an MMA fight does say a lot, and I would have never really imagined myself saying that until right now. Like if he steps in that cage with anybody, or even like Nate Diaz, the fact that he's doing it and that it's not all talk anymore, I kind of just can't even hate on the guy anymore. I'm having a hard time trying to find
Be
something to hate.
careful.
Mhm.
Be careful saying that, Dom, because you know that there's a chance the PFL is going to announce his debut fight, and it's going to be against a guy with with Phase in his name or fucking Mister Disrespect or
Well, yeah,
whatever the
see
hell.
that's the problem, right?
Yeah,
I don't want an
like
MMA fight
that's
with an influencer. Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean, I could really see that being the direction they go. What I mean by I'm not confident that he'll really ever fight in the PFL is part of this deal is he's sort of a promoter for the PFL. That's sort of
yeah,
like
yeah.
his title he's being given.
He
I'm
got
sure
equity
he
stake in
gets,
the company too.
yeah, that. And, he's promoting these fighters on his social media, promoting these fights. He's sort of being hired as like a promoter.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
actually wonder if that's going to really be what his legacy is with the PFL, whatever legacy that might be, that he is going to really
Hmm.
be more in that capacity. And I'm not sure if we'll ever actually see him compete in MMA. I think the intention is for that to happen. But, if Nate Diaz doesn't end up taking that deal, that two fight deal for boxing and then MMA in the smart cage of the PFL, who do you give Jake Paul? I saw Anthony Pettis said he'd welcome
I
him.
saw
I saw
that.
Darren Wynn, who recently got released. He came out and said, you know, surely he can beat me, the shortest light heavyweight
Yeah,
in history.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't think those are the kind of guys that are obviously going to get that fight. I think it's going to be some motherfucker with a name Phase
Yeah.
or like I don't like I said, Mr. Disrespect or whoever.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
I don't see who else. You're gonna have some influencer, some like that's gonna be maybe you get KSI and the MMA. I don't know. I
Here,
who knows? Because he to his credit, he's not really done that in boxing as much. Like it started that way, but yes, you could poke holes in most of his wins. But the Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, I mean, they are at least legit combat sports athletes.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that like can he really bring that to an MMA field though? Like, was he gonna is he gonna do the reverse? Is he gonna start challenging washed up boxers into an
MMA.
MMA fight? That would actually be pretty funny. Honestly, that would be a pretty good troll by him. If like I don't know, I wish I had like a name off the top of my head, like some MMA, some really good boxer
Yeah.
who is now in his late 30s, early 40s, who's not nearly what he once was, and he just gives him a bag to come fight him in an MMA fight, and he just wrestle fucks the shit out of him. Like I
Who
can
was
just
the
totally see that.
Who was the boxer that Connor had beef with? Maybe he'll call him out in an MMA
Oh,
fight.
Paulie,
Yep. Yeah.
how do I say? I don't know how to say his last
Masliani
name.
or something
I
like
forget how
that.
to
Yeah.
say his last
Paulie.
name, but
There it is.
yeah,
There you go.
there you go. So, all in all, I'm surprised. Me and Dom both kind of saying that this is probably going to be good for them. I think there's some skepticism on how we will personally enjoy his contribution, but I've said on here before, Dom, even when I started giving him some props as a boxer, I kind of would still, that whole beef with Dana was going on, and I mean it still kind of is, but when he released the diss track and he's talking about this or that, talking about starting a fighters union. I came on here and I said, people, don't be surprised if you never hear about it again. And he's not
Yeah.
about it, and he's just about himself and blah blah blah. I still am skeptical of where his true intentions lie, but
Yeah.
I can't deny that he's not doing stuff that's helping the fighters, whether or not he has a benefit of doing it or not is kind of irrelevant because if it's helping those fighters, then good on him, I guess.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. He's surely going to be on like their first regular season card of the year on TV, and they'll have him speak or something like that. So
Yeah,
we'll
I could
keep an
totally,
eye on it.
or at least in the crowd or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
totally see that. Man, if you showed me and you the first time we talked about Jake and we were like so reluctant to even talk about him,
Yeah.
that was over a year ago. If you
Yeah.
showed those two guys this clip, boy, they they would
They
be
torch
fucking
us. Yeah.
bamboozled.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll move on to question two, Dom. This is an interesting question. This kind of ties into Dominic's
Yeah.
battling for Bogey
I like what you did here.
in his new show. So, Dominic, we're talking about this idea that a fighter could get a do-over, as they call it in golf, a mulligan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's kind of the groundwork here. So the question is, who is one fighter that you wish could get a mulligan?
Yeah.
Basically meaning, who is a fighter that you think if you gave them another chance in a certain fight, that things would go different? That's kind of where I'm going with this one. And if you want to go a step further, if you need more elaboration, let's say that fighter who lost, because presumably we're going to both pick someone who lost a certain fight that was winnable or whatever for them. They have the knowledge of that first fight, so they were able to make the adjustments going in the second time to hopefully get the win. So now that I've kind of laid it out that way, you seemed a little surprised, almost like that's not exactly where you thought I was going with that.
No, I'm glad you actually went this route because at first I was worried about like an entire career getting a do-over. But now I like this question much more, and
Yeah.
it's easier to think. I think of options, and like I try to do on these segments as much as I can. It's not all the time, but for a lot of questions, I try at least to. The first thing that comes to my head is what I will say. And you're going to be shocked here because it goes against my favorite fighter of all time. But I just want to say Chael Sonnen getting submitted by Anderson
Wow.
Silva in the 5th round. If he gets a mulligan, if he gets to do that over with the knowledge of the threat of the BJJ on the ground after dominating that fight the whole time, and Chael Sonnen becomes the champion and dethrones Anderson. Then I really wonder what could have been of Chael in terms of superstardom, in terms of like Anderson's run. Would Anderson have won the rematch still, and got his title back? Then does it set up a trilogy, and then it's a massive trilogy fight for the history of the UFC? I don't know. That was the first thing that came to my head. I'm stunned, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
I really hate to give you a fact that's going to kind of ruin this for you.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I hate to be that guy, Dom. You know me. I
It's
don't like
like
to
the
be
Angela
that
Hill
guy.
math problem from a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Chael's son popped for PEDs after this fight.
Oh, Lord. So he would have got stripped of the
So
title.
so he would have won, been stripped, and then I believe if the I'm assuming he tested positive for his post fight drug test. So let's say he wins the title, he pops, that means the title would have went back to Anderson Silva.
Back
Do
to
you
square
still
one.
go with that though? Because at least like that makes the rematch all that more intriguing. Like Anderson still walks away with the title somehow, but he has to go up against a guy who beat him for 5 rounds handedly,
Yeah. I'm still
and
going to
that
go
guy
with
has to
it
come
still.
back and has to go off the juice. And
Right? And can they
well, I
win a
think
second
Chael,
time?
I think Chael went right back on it, but you get my point.
Yeah. I'm still going to go with it just because
Okay.
it's something I wouldn't have expected myself to say. I'll still go with it. But damn, the irony there is actually pretty hilarious.
Yeah, when I got this question on here, I really thought of one fighter, and I've kind of stuck with that. I haven't thought about too many other options, so there may be some better options out there. I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt against TJ Dillashaw the first time.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one.
Cody is a guy that we hold near and dear to us, an Ohio guy.
Yeah.
When me and Dominic really started getting into the sport, UFC 203, our first event in person, we met Cody. He did
Yep.
like he was at part of this like fan expo outside of what was known as Quicken Loans Arena at the time in Cleveland, and he became the champion just 4 months later. And one of the
Yep.
biggest surprises of, I believe that was still 2016. And then his first title defense is in that blood feud with TJ
Mm,
Dillashaw, and that was
huge fight.
such a huge fight on one of the biggest cards ever, UFC 217.
Yep.
Cody looks great in round one. He drops TJ at the very
Mm,
end of the round. TJ
mm-hmm.
looks dazed. You're thinking, okay, Cody's going to come out here in round two and finish the job. But Dominic, he got into his own head. He started seeing red as he has done time
Yep.
and time again. He came in without any sort of defense. TJ Dillashaw caught him. Cody was not able to recover. Got finished. Obviously, they rematched immediately after. He got finished again. And then Cody's career is kind of,
Yeah.
it's not been
Yeah.
great really since then. And it's a shame. We met him again at UFC Columbus, and
Yep.
such a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
At least he seems to be from the small
Right.
conversations we've
Small
had with him.
combos.
But seems like a nice guy. He's the kind of guy I root for.
Mm-hmm.
I I, I, I think back to when he won the title and he had that kid that was
Maddox.
going,
Yep.
yeah, that had cancer, and
Mm-hmm.
he was crying, wrapped the belt around his waist and stuff. I think about stuff like that, and I'm like, I wish this was a guy. Not nothing against T.J. Dillashaw. I know a lot of people hate his guts, whatever.
Right.
It's not even it's not even that I dislike TJ that much. It's that
Yeah.
I just a guy like Cody, I'd like to see get another chance to try to make that a real title reign and really cement his legacy in the bantamweight division.
Yeah, because then with a mulligan like that that we're using, it just changes the trajectory. Look at the way the division's been. But if he beats TJ, they probably don't rematch. And then like, who would have came next for Cody at that time? And then does Cody win again? And like, when that happened, it really did kind of change the past. What are we at now? Like 5 years, basically, of
Mm-hmm.
this division. It's been wacky ever since kind of all that happened and that rivalry. So that is a good one. That's a really good one, Noah.
Can I give you a second one that's like really,
Sure.
it's going to break our brains a little bit to think about how much this would change because we're going back to the
Okay.
beginning.
Oh boy.
Ken Shamrock against Royce Gracie at UFC 1.
The entirety of the company has changed. Yeah.
I still would probably favor Royce Gracie, but
Yeah.
If Ken Shamrock knew what happened in that first fight and he had a chance to do it over again, and he is such an athletic freak, could he somehow make the adjustments
Yeah.
and win that? And what would that do
What
for
does
the
it
UFC, which was started as essentially a commercial for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole event, they might not have ever done it again. If Hoist loses at UFC 1, I don't think there's ever a UFC 2.
Wow.
Is that because Hoist's dad was one of the, I don't know, owners or promoters, whatever.
Yeah.
He's one of the top guys in this event. So
Damn.
if he's obviously trying to get everybody set, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. They had tables outside the arena for you to sign up for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu classes. I mean, it was clearly a commercial. And it worked. And Jiu-Jitsu exploded in the United States.
And look at it now.
But what would have happened if Ken Shamrock, who obviously looked like the heavy favorite to win that whole tournament, if he wins that fight,
it almost would have made the whole sport of jiu-jitsu a little less respected. Where's the sport of jiu-jitsu now?
I don't think it explodes in the United States. I don't think you get a UFC 2. I think Ken Shamrock winning that fight could potentially set back the trajectory of the UFC and MMA in the United States in general generations.
Generations, Noah said.
Like Ken Shamrock, I think that would have done a lot for him. He obviously went on to be in WWE and stuff, and if he could say he was the winner of the Ultimate Fighting Championship tournament, the only one that ever existed, he might have just become like a movie star or whatever. But I just think about that, how much that could have changed things. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe they would have been like, well, no, we need to get Hoist redemption in UFC 2. And maybe it ends up actually making MMA become bigger faster. Maybe people buy into a rivalry right away. I don't know.
That's crazy.
I tend to think, though, it's just interesting to think about what could have been.
The tinfoil hat went on a little bit there. No, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Question number 3. We had 2 pretty big upsets or big surprises in the title picture this year.
To put it lightly, I'd say.
Probably more than that. But the 2 that were the most surprising had to be Leon Edwards. Yes, I understand everybody. He probably should have won the hot mic category.
Yeah, right.
We gave him a lot of categories.
Yeah, he could have won all 8 awards, I'm pretty sure.
We just tried to spread the love. We just tried to spread the love, guys. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
But Leon Edwards, head kick, knocks out Kamaru Usman. And then Alex Pereira in round 5 knocks out Israel Adesanya. So the question, Dom, is who is more likely to reclaim their title in a rematch? Israel Adesanya against Pereira or Kamaru Usman against Edwards?
Yeah. I think when you look at the 2 fights, I find that it's difficult for me to choose Adesanya. I feel like I almost have to pick Kamaru Usman. Yes, both were winning the fights. I understand that. But it's the dynamic in the fight styles. There's a drastic difference here because Kamaru was relatively handily. I know Leon won round 1, but he was winning that fight, and he had the wrestling to fall back on if he really, really wanted to press it more than what he even did in that fight. When you look at Izzy and Alex, they're both kickboxers. Alex now has beaten Izzy in a stand-up fight. Let's be quite frank. That's what happened. It wasn't an MMA fight, that UFC 281. It was a striking kickboxing match, and Alex beat him again, and he's 3-0 against Izzy.
Are you really telling me Izzy's takedown in round 4 wasn't MMA?
I forgot that one. You're right. That one.
No, I'm just kidding. I get what you're saying though, but I just remember that. Things were getting crazy in that fight. So I'm not making fun of those guys, but boy, I was like, oof. Let's get back to the feet, fellas. What are we doing?
I kept wanting to get the over 1.5 takedowns. I remember yelling it now for
Yeah,
Izzy,
yeah.
and then Alex even got a takedown. But take that aside, it's just two strikers that are so dead even. And I lean so much more Kamaru over Leon, even though I think like Leon could very much so beat Kamaru in their trilogy fight should it happen next year. I would favor Alex Pereira much more to beat Izzy again and remain the champion. So I'll go Kamaru Usman here on this one.
I do feel like stylistically, and then when you look at how the first fights went, you have to go with Usman. But the only factor, the only bone I'll throw in here is a little external factor. Usman has retirement on the mind. That's
Yeah,
been
you're right. You're
that's
right.
been
A
sort
long
of
time.
a thing. He's been talking about it for a while. Perhaps it's that thought of, how many does he have left, thinking a little bit of 1 foot out the door, that might have left that chin open in round 5 when,
Yeah.
the guy that was killing everybody 2 years prior may have saw that coming. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little too speculative even for me, but I am going to go Usman. But I did just want to throw out there that
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that would worry me about Usman getting his title back is just that drive to get back to that position when, truthfully, he doesn't feel like he has a ton of time left, anyways.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
what is really that? I mean, yes, you want to get that win back because that's such a freaking devastating moment, such a huge moment. That head kick, knockout.
Yeah.
They said pound for pound, headshot, dead. That's it.
Yeah.
As so many eloquently reminded us when we did not pick that in the hot mic category. But I guess I still think, though, that Usman stylistically has the advantage over Edwards, while
Just a better
Pereira
chance.
Adesanya, I actually might still favor Izzy to win a rematch with Alex, which might be crazy because Alex has now beat him 3 times,
Yeah.
even in 2 different sports, whatever. But I still feel like Usman I would favor heavier.
Yeah.
Like
And
if I were allowed to bet on MMA, I'd probably bet on Usman money line
right.
for a
Right.
second fight. I don't think I'd bet on Izzy money
Yeah, you
line.
probably wouldn't want to touch that fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, that's fair. I like
Did
that.
you
And
have something you wanted to say? Sorry, I
I was
cut
just
you
gonna
off
say,
again.
we should, fingers crossed, get both of these rematches here in 2023. So we're gonna see if maybe both of them do it. Maybe one of them does it. Maybe just maybe neither of them do it. We're gonna find out.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I haven't heard like anything about Izzy
Mhm.
Pereira, like nothing
Yeah.
about that being run back. But I assume it will be.
Yeah.
I mean, it did just happen. I guess like less
November
than
or
two
so.
months ago, or around 2 months ago. But meanwhile, there's been some worries about Usman Edwards happening when they were planning to do it because Usman's
Yeah.
hand. But
I
then
saw
I
that.
saw Ali tweeted today that to put the rumors to rest that they're going to be ready to go and that fight is
That's
happening.
in
So
March, so that's big. In London, man, too.
yeah.
Woo.
So I do hope that that fight really happens the way that we want it to happen at that event because man, that is such a big
Oh,
event to have that at. It would be really a damper if
yeah.
that got removed from that card. That would suck
Oh,
unbelievably.
yeah. It could be massive. It could be massive.
Let's move on to question number 4, Dom. This is one
Mhm.
that we both have to do a little bit of digging on. We have to do our homework, our research.
Yep. Yep.
This might be a future category for the Joeys. Don't be surprised if this gets
Ooh.
added.
Oh yeah, I petition it right here. I think
I
number
mean, we
9.
might. It's a little bit of copy in the MMA Hour, the Nose Awards. This is one
Oh,
of
do they
their
do that
categories, but I just think that, like, considering how often we share these
every
back and
week?
forth,
Every
yeah,
week.
and
Yeah.
critique them, I feel like
Yeah.
you almost have to.
Yeah.
The question is, what was the best MMA poster of 2022?
Yeah. So after going through all of our thumbnails, basically for YouTube for 2022, scrolling through them, I think there were definitely a couple good ones. Maybe it was the color that popped, or just like the movie poster feel, almost the suspenseful type feel. But I'm going to go with this one because the design was cool and the significance of the event. I'm going to go UFC Paris in September. Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa, Robert Whitaker, Marvin Vettori was the co-main. That did happen, right? I'm not blanking on if that fight happened or not because I have
Whitaker
struggled.
Vittori, is that what you
Yeah.
said? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the co-main.
It's bad that I have to ask that because so many fights with those two guys get scrapped or canceled or flip-flop one way or
That's
another.
true.
But I like that one. The event, for one, was incredible. It was the debut for the UFC in Paris, headlined by my guy, Cyril Gane. The main event was sick, and the poster has the Eiffel Tower on it, the French flag in the background. It's pretty dope, man. So I'm going to go with that one with all those factors involved.
Yeah, that's a good choice, and I like that you took into account the significance of the event and that the poster was good. Because truthfully, Dom, I don't think we get a lot of good posters in MMA. It's hard to do a good poster, I'll admit it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I do look at these posters and I'm like, why do these fuckers make it so hard? Like, because they're doing all this extra shit that doesn't need to be there. They're putting the name in 5 different areas and half of the name is showing on the bottom. And like, sometimes they're making it look like they're, they have cum coming off of them.
Oh, boy.
And like,
Oh, boy.
I mean, it gets really bizarre, some of the posters you see. But when you get a good one,
Yeah.
it really hits. It hits.
Yeah.
And truthfully, when I was going through all the MMA posters for this year, at least for the major events, I pretty much could take out any Bellator poster like right away. I mean, and really PFL as well. Neither one of them really like to do too much with them.
Yeah.
So really, you're looking at UFC, but Dominic, there is another.
It's true.
So as much as I loved like UFC 271, Adesanya Whitaker 2, I think that's a pretty fire poster.
Yeah.
It feels very epic.
Yeah.
And, even though the fight was fine, but nothing special, it was definitely a highly anticipated main event. And I think that poster told a good story for that.
Yeah.
UFC Columbus behind Dominic, I thought was one of the best fight night posters of the year. UFC Paris as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to UFC 281. I like the Star Wars feel of Adesanya Pereira. And, of course, you have Chandler Poirier on there, Anna Esparza, Zhang.
Yep.
It's got great colors on there.
Yeah,
That one's pretty cool. But my winner is an event we didn't even cover because of the lull in events and holidays and whatnot. It was the New Year's Eve show that just happened between Bellator and Ryzen.
It was dope.
That poster where you have the samurai and then you have like the Roman gladiator.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty epic.
And really, it was very simplistic.
It's a shame that I really didn't think the event was all that great in terms of the in-ring action.
Yeah.
I thought the fights left a little bit to be desired. I thought the actual pageantry or pomp or the theatrics of it all were pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the poster was awesome. But, that's the kind of poster, like, I didn't love the event, but I would hang that poster, like, on my wall. I think that's a pretty badass poster.
Yeah. I like that. No, it was dope.
And what a surprise for a company like Bellator to put that together. I mean, I don't think I'm assuming that was a Ryzen call.
Ryzen had to have made that for sure. Yeah. It had to be
Bellator would have put together their same fucking red and black and
black and white. And, yeah. Had to be Ryzen.
Oh, that's funny. Number 5.
Okay.
Another homework question here.
Yeah.
Out of all the unranked prospects that we like, Dom, which of them do you think will take a massive leap in 2023? Some would say the massivest of leaps.
The massivest of leaps. This is tough. We might even have to. Do you have someone on the brain? And I might have to think more.
I can go and I can give you some choices after I go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who's ranked and who's not and all that.
Part of my answer is obviously the skill level of this gentleman. I think he's fucking awesome. But also part of this is the actual division he fights in being not of the cream of the crop. And that's going to be Jailton Almeida.
Oh, that's
heavyweight.
Great. Yeah, that's good.
Jailton Almeida, heavyweight. I don't believe he's ranked. I think he's still unranked as of now. But That dude is going to be a real problem at heavyweight. Not only is he an athletic specimen, he fills out well in the division. Doesn't have much body fat on him though. Like he's absolutely ripped, just huge, and he's got great skills on the ground and his stand up, great power. I think he's got that kind of recipe, Dom, of like a future champion. He kind of reminds me of a more technical, like Ngannou in some ways, where he has this presence about him that's terrifying. That you don't want to fuck with this guy, but I think he's got the skills to back it up, and he can finish you anywhere and everywhere. I'm excited to see him next. I don't know when his next fight is. He may have had a fight get canceled recently. There's
He
been a
did.
lot going
He did.
on.
Yep.
But that's my choice. I know you were kind of trying to look up some while I was
Yeah.
talking. Is there anybody that's sticking out to you? Because I can give you a couple that I saw in my research that you might want to piggyback off of.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of who's ranked and who's not, and also thinking of like some of the. I know we didn't do this category for the Joeys, but like last year we had newcomer of the year, so I had
Right.
people listed on there, and I was trying to think of some of them. So maybe just selfishly from a fan perspective, but I really do believe in the guy. I have to go with Jack Della Maddalena, Noah,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a big test because he is reportedly fighting Randy Brown
That's an awesome
in
fight.
Perth, Australia, on the pay-per-view card.
Awesome fight.
That fight is unreal and a very interesting dynamic for the show. Randy Brown.
Yeah, I was about to say, what a dilemma for Dom because Jack. I mean, we both like Jack, but Dom is a Jack
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what his fan base is called. He's a We're
the jack-offs.
He's a jack off. Yeah, that's. Meanwhile, Randy Brown, friend of the show.
Yeah, couple
he
times.
he enjoyed us talking about his submission of the year.
Yep.
During our second Joey's, where I legitimately developed COVID in the middle of recording, and
In that clip.
Dominic was wearing a suit, so it was just so shout out to Randy Brown for just getting through that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna go Jack. I really like Jack. He's an unreal boxer, an unreal striker, and he does have to be tested. He has to be tested with these well-rounded guys, and Randy's one of them. Randy Brown is good everywhere. We've seen the improvements that he's made over the past few fights. That's an incredible fight, and if Jack can get past Randy Brown, that makes me believe exponentially more in him than I already do. A win over Randy Brown with the experience and the people that he has fought goes a long way. So I'm going to go with Jack Della Maddalena. There's a lot of really great young up-and-comers that came in last year, Noah, that can make huge splashes, I think, in 2023.
Yeah, guys like some of the other guys and girls that I was looking at was like Kaio Bahayo, Tatsuro Taira. Shout out to viewer of the channel, Vispian, who has commented about Tatsuro even before he had made his debut, and he looks electric.
And he's in flyweight too, bro. Oh, man.
Special mention to a guy I really like, but it's such a tough division, Terrence McKinney. I feel like you have to mention him, but it's a tough division. Same with another guy that I've really struggled to not give him this spot, but I think the division discrepancy is the reason. Bantamweight, Javid Basharat.
Yeah, I think does he fight this next week or his brother? One of the two fights.
I think Javid's fighting coming up. I believe so. But also for women, Natalia Silva. Me and Dominic been high on her. Yasmin Jaraguay, I believe was her name. She's another good one. So those are some really tough up-and-comers that I think all could make big splashes this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, wait, I'll look right here. I knew we were going to ramble a bit on this one. Okay, Mohaev's ranked 14 now, but that was another guy last year. I think Michael Morales is an absolute animal.
Yeah, Michael Morales. He only worries me. The only thing that worries me about Michael Morales, he is a tank, but man, that last performance, he does leave his chin just wide open.
Yes, he
does.
And
I do think he's going to get cracked at some point. But I do think that he does have a lot of potential. It's just, man, that does worry me. I mean, you could mention Raul Rosas Jr.
Yeah, true.
He's one of those guys, though, when you're talking about making the biggest leap this year, I don't quite think he's going to get the fast track that maybe some people are worried he's going to get. I think they're going to play it a little slow with him.
I sure hope so, Noah.
I don't think we're going to fall into like a Sage Northcutt deal with him. unless he just turns out to really not be as good as people want him to be. Because if you really be honest, I mean, is that kind of what happened with Sage Northcutt? Like, a lot of people are worried that they're going to do what they did to Sage, but did they really fast track Sage, or did he just turn out to really, like, when you're fighting like Mickey Gall and, guys of that caliber, like, is that really fast tracking you, considering you have all this hype and you were
Yeah.
winning all these fights? Like, you kind of have to advance a little bit, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was almost Sage's athleticism was like far superior to his actual skill set because he was just such a freak athlete and
Well, he
just
was
shredded.
what
And
was he? Was he a karate guy or kickbox?
I think so,
He was like a
something like that.
prodigy, and
Yeah.
I'm that's bad. I don't remember which one, but he was like a prodigy in whatever that form was, and then it just seemed like the full game just wasn't really
Yeah. Yeah.
developed. Didn't catch up. Whatever.
I mean, please don't fast track Raul. He's 18.
Yeah.
He could fight 5 or 6 more times and still we don't even need him in the rankings after those if he goes undefeated and finishes all of them. Like, okay, well maybe if he finishes all of them, but you get what I'm saying. There's no point to do it right now.
Just give him the Patty Pimblett path, Just
There's the no I remember.
No, I mean I don't blame them for doing that with Patty. I'm
Gradual
just saying
steps each fight.
I think they did it right with Patty
Yeah.
Pimblett.
Yeah.
To me.
Could Patty make this list for you, Noah?
No. I hate the. I'm not trying to. We've already said our piece about his last fight.
Yeah, I was just curious.
We've already said, I got that off my chest, and now I can go back to saying I do like Patty Pimblett. I think he's a great personality. Obviously, that week had some weird stuff, the Ariel Helwani stuff, and
yeah, it was weird.
He didn't come off super great there, but
Right.
I still like the guy. I still think he's very funny. I mean, we had a whole clip of us talking about what that doorbell video would do for a star power. I mean, that's the kind of weight that what he says carries at this point.
Yeah.
But no, I do not think that. I still think his ceiling is like back half top 15, if that. So that's why I think we're reaching a point. I mean, it was the writing's on the wall after that Jared Gordon fight. Don't get me wrong; he could definitely prove me wrong in his next fight. But if they push him a little bit even further ahead than Jared Gordon, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening there.
Can I ask one more sub question of this category? I love these types of questions. Of all those people that we just mentioned, and I know we listed like our number one, right? But so I'm going to try and reword this. Essentially, not necessarily the biggest leap in terms of skill set or competition, but like, are there anybody in that list that you think could reach like top 10, top 5, depending on who they compete against, how many times they compete? I mean, it comes down to that, they will have to compete a decent amount of times, but like, look at a guy like Tetsuo Taira, for example. It's a slim division.
Yeah.
If he goes 3-0 in 2023, he could put himself pretty close with the division. I don't know.
I think Taira and Almeida have the
Almeida, yeah,
potential.
He could really catapult in.
I think Almeida is going to be top 10 by the end of this year.
Yeah,
and might honestly, even be further than that.
No, he can do it in 2 weight classes too. That's the thing. Let us not forget.
He's an absolute freak. So yeah. I also would like to say that about either of those 2 women, but it's hard to really predict because I've kind of said the same thing like for women's flyweight. We've been talking about this batch of up and comers, and yes, it looks like Aaron Blanchfield's really making a push, and you had Tyler Santos and stuff, but some of those other women, it feels like it's just like a snail's pace to get them to the top. Like we've been talking about that division and how bright the future looks for like 2 years. So it's like I don't know if like a Natalia Silva or Yasmin would get the fights necessary to really push them to the kind of push that I think Tatsuro or Jailton would get.
Yeah, I like that. Nice.
Question number 6, Dominic. We're going to be looking at retired fighters here, and I want you to name a retired fighter who is currently not involved as an analyst or commentator, but that you believe would be good in either role.
So much again. I'm first thing that clicked in. I was going to say one guy, but he's actually not retired, so I have to not do that one. So the second name, technically, how about Funky Ben? Funky Ben Askren.
Ooh,
I bet
okay.
he could add some expertise, obviously, especially he's great at
I
wrestling
like
and
that.
whatnot. He's been around for a long time, but he would also add a little bit of
Man,
pizzazz. No, he's got that funky
yeah,
personality. I think
that's
it'd
a
be fun
great
having Ben
answer.
Askren. I
That's a
like that.
great answer. I was actually surprised. Who were you going to mention that's still active?
I was going to say Demetrius Johnson. I think he would be
Oh
incredible.
yeah,
He would
yeah.
be
I
so
thought
good.
of him as well, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to make it retired. I mean, I guess it would be cheating to pick like a Chael Sonnen, right? Because
Yeah.
he's kind of done
Jail
it with
man.
Eagle. He's done
Yeah.
like he's sort of done it. This might be cheating as well because this guy is very much involved with an MMA promotion, but it's not in this capacity. It's actually he's one of the top dogs of that company, Rich Franklin.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Rich Franklin, and for kind of different. I mean, I think not that Ben Askren doesn't have like that analytical side, but what I imagine in Rich Franklin, he's a very eloquent guy. If you remember when he was at his best, the UFC were really using him because he was this eloquent, good-looking guy. He sort of broke the mold of what people back in the early to mid 2000s
Well,
thought of a cage fighter.
if I'm not mistaken, Noah, I'm pretty sure he was a school teacher. At
Yes,
least
he
when he's
was. He was a
so there
school
you go.
teacher.
Yeah.
So they would have him go to he had a lot of speaking engagements basically
Yeah.
because the guy was really good with his words.
Yeah.
He's very analytical. You can tell he knows he still keeps up in sports, still knows it.
Hmm.
But he is one of the top guys over for one. Like
Yeah, he's an executive for him.
yeah, he's an executive. So I think this would be kind of a downgrade for him in some ways. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the first guy I thought of. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I would have really liked to see
Man, dude,
in
as you
that
think,
kind
I
of
just gotta
role.
say, selfishly, man, I'd love to see Rich back with the UFC to do something like that.
I
He
know.
that
I
was a
know.
guy from Ohio, like the OG dude from Ohio,
Yeah.
and one of the
My
best in
dad's
the
met him.
world at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my dad's
man,
met him.
that
Didn't
would
even
be a
know he was one of the best in the world. Yeah,
yeah, that
crazy.
would be a cool moment.
Is there anybody?
I mean, Henry was good during his Eagle FC stuff, but he's like in
He was
USADA full now.
okay. He did stumble quite a bit. I mean, he was new to it. Rashad's done it, hasn't he? Hasn't
Rashad's done
Rashad?
it, yeah, with
Yeah.
the UFC.
I mean, honestly, people aren't going to want like to hear this one, but I think John Jones might be pretty good at that.
John would be good. I mean, if it's a great fighter, they're gonna be great at breaking
But
down the
I'm
fight.
thinking
You
of
would
someone
think, but
who
like,
has an ability to speak on a microphone that like
mm,
has a good talking ability, who is also knowledgeable about sport. And anytime, look, I understand John Jones will probably never be given that type of role, but I can't deny the fact that I think he meets that criteria.
yeah, yeah, he would be really good. I think really cool to listen to speak.
As far in terms of active fighters, they got to give Michael Chandler like some sort of
Michael
job
Chandler
like
definitely
that.
has to. I want Anthony Smith to do actual commentary
Right.
rather than
Yeah.
pre-fight,
Agreed.
post-fight.
Agreed. That's why I kind of made it to where you couldn't pick
Yeah,
like someone who was an analyst because
yeah,
he's. I don't know if that's what his role is considered, but you know what I mean.
right, right.
Question number 7.
Getting there, getting there.
Yep, we only got 2 left. Dominic, there are rumors
Mhm.
circulating. We've been hearing them for a little bit. Ariel actually brought it up on his show, I believe Monday or Wednesday, one of the two. There are rumors that Bellator may be up for sale.
Yeah,
You know, they've been with Showtime for a few years now, and before that, they were with DAZN, and I think before that, they were, I don't know what they were doing before that, Spike TV maybe. So because of that, Dom, if they were to be sold, I just want to know what you would prefer. That they end up on network television or on a streaming service. Think of the upside and downside to either of those options for your personal enjoyment of the product.
I, I mean, well, considering I have a lot of these streaming services, I guess it wouldn't be too crazy. But personally, I mean, it'd be cool to have them on network television. Um, I'll say I kind of want to go say two things here, but for the streaming service and network television, I would prefer television. But if it were a streaming service, I would prefer it to be on Peacock. Noah, I think Peacock is actually a really good platform. They do live football games for the
Yep.
NFL. They have the WWE catalog on there and live events that you can watch. It's the cheapest one, but it's arguably one of the best ones. They do a lot of stuff with sports So I think that would be cool if Bellator were to go to a streaming service, other than obviously Showtime if they leave there. And I just want to bring this up. I wish I remembered who I saw tweet this on Twitter. So shout out to you if you're somehow listening to this. But they kind of proposed this big grand scheme that if Bellator would be sold, imagine, and it wouldn't happen, I don't think. But if you look at the PFL and how crazy and wild they get with wanting to experiment, and we've already talked about them here on this show, if they were to somehow purchase Bellator, combine those rosters, and actually, again, they're not going to be it's hard to say there's going to ever be a legitimate threat to the UFC or competition, but damn, wouldn't that be cool to have those rosters absorbed as one big roster in the talent pool that they would have? I mean, that would be, I think, fantastic if Bellator would actually sell and if PFL were to actually do that, which I think some of the execs over the PFL, they like to take chances, so I could see it, but obviously it's unrealistic. But, I just want to give a shout out to that tweet.
I do not think it's that unrealistic. Maybe I'm crazy. I know they just gave a bag to Jake Paul.
Yeah.
But
that'd be cool, man.
But dude, I kind of hope that's what happens, because I don't think the end goal here is for the PFL to take over. I don't think that's really the realistic goal, right? It's not for them to become the number one MMA promotion. But why can't we have a legitimate number two?
Yeah.
Who is not like a Bellator level, but why can't they be almost as big as the UFC? Why can't there be two big promotions? Because let me tell you, what I think would really benefit from that, obviously that makes their roster just so much better and bigger and deeper. But also, Dom, the PFL product is so much different, feels a lot different. You have the season format,
yes,
the $1 million on the line, and then now you have this idea of the super fight pay-per-view division, which could be really interesting for some of these fights. Because basically what would happen is if they bought Bellator, they'd have to commit to holding shows all year. Yes. I just think that would be, which I would be all for.
Yes.
You still do your season format, and the people that want to do that can commit to that. But you can have other fights, other cards.
And how much have we said that for PFL?
Around the year, including some
missing.
Of these super fights, these pay-per-view cards that they've been talking about.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that? I know it's a lot. You got the Challenger Series, you got PFL Europe, but those are farming grounds for bringing in prospects, Have two massive kind of ongoing. You got the season, and then you got that pay-per-view format, and you could even do other side cards outside of that. Yeah.
They could have 2 to 3 legitimate cards a month.
And it's different enough for the fighters. It gives the fighters another outlet, so they have more. When they go to the negotiating table, they have more pull, because they're like, well, if you don't give me what I want, maybe these guys will.
Yeah.
But also, the PFL does have that offer of you can win $1 million at the end of this season. Mm-hmm. So, yes, they may not have the talent of a UFC, but that will attract a Shane Burgos or a whoever or Thiago Santos, guys like that, who can kind of see the writing on the wall for their career in the UFC, but could still be real threats in a promotion like the PFL. I hope that's what happens, but if that did happen, the only thing I think there could be some shady shit though, Dom, that if when it comes to business, the UFC on ESPN Plus, PFL's been on UFC or ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
They've been coexisting on there, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the UFC doesn't really view the PFL as a threat.
Right.
What happens if that purchase is made?
Yeah, they wouldn't be on the
UFC would be like, you got to get these guys out of here.
Yeah, I agree.
But why couldn't they go to a Peacock or one of these others? I mean, Peacock does have Combate, but,
I thought that was Paramount.
Or I think you're right. It is Paramount. Yeah, you're
Peacock,
right.
PFL, PP.
Yeah, Peacock, I guess, doesn't have anything. So put it on there.
There you go. Telling you.
Actually, to go back to my original question, because really I was going to say streaming service, and it's because I want the full library of Bellator cards on
Oh, that's a good
streaming
point.
service.
That's a good point.
I mean, wouldn't it be cool? Like, I'm not saying I'd ever watch all of them. I would like to think so. I've done it for the UFC, but it's
They did it.
frustrating because when I've tried to go back and watch old Bellator cards, they have some available on like YouTube on their YouTube channel, but it's really hard to find like old ones.
I bet. Yeah.
There may be some sort of wall like in the licensing of like who they were
Yeah.
owned by at the time for that to ever happen. But it would be really cool if they had like a WWE format on Peacock. But it
Yeah,
would be
that would be dope.
Bellator library. You can go back multiple years, and
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty sick.
I think we just had a pretty cool business meeting here live
Yeah.
on camera.
I think so too, Dom. So shout out to us. Question number 8. Speaking of WWE,
Oh yeah, good way to finish.
so WWE has produced multiple pretty big movie stars over the years, Dom, and obviously their format leads to that a little bit more. There's a little bit more acting involved. Guys like The Rock, John Cena, Dave Bautista
Yeah.
have made that leap into superstardom outside of WWE. I just want to ask you, who in MMA has the highest potential to be a movie star?
Okay.
I mean, there's an obvious answer here, right?
Well, and he's getting his start, right? If we're talking to Connor, I'm assuming you were going to say
Ooh,
Conor
that wasn't
McGregor?
who I was going to say.
Oh.
That's actually probably a more obvious
Because he's going to be in the
answer than-
Roadhouse movie.
Yeah, and that's probably a more obvious answer. Ronda Rousey, of course, was in Expendables 3. I believe she was in one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the problem with Ronda is she can't act.
Yeah.
She
Not great.
didn't do too great in her acting. I mean, she's cool. It's cool to see her. Not great performances. My obvious one, I was going to say Israel Adesanya.
Ooh, okay. Interesting, actually. Interesting.
I just feel like he has that presence.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of a movie star. The Rock. Was The Rock ever like the best in-ring performer in WWE? No. Honestly, his moveset kind of limited in some ways.
Yeah.
Like he's not the best wrestler. But why was he one of the biggest stars in the company? The guy
Exactly.
could obviously cut a
charisma.
promo like no other.
Yeah.
He had the charisma and the presence about him.
Yep.
I mean, you can copy and paste that for John Cena and Batista. Batista's kind of an interesting one. He
It
feels
is.
a little different. Like it's kind of a surprise that he really took off the way he did. Like you can see it with The Rock and John Cena.
Yeah.
Batista was never necessarily like that great on the microphone.
Well, and Noah, a lot of people, I've seen this on Twitter, between the three, a lot of people think Batista's the best actor of the three as well. He hasn't had like as obviously The Rock's had the biggest movies and roles, but a lot of people think Dave Bautista is like, in terms of an actor, the best of the three.
You would think The Rock has had the biggest career, but in some ways, I mean, if you took the total box office from all their movies,
Well, I see
Batista
where you're
does
going.
have the advantage of being
Yeah.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
You're right.
And that's what I was going to say, though. Like, Batista, yes, has been in some movies outside of being Drax and Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers and whatnot. But
Yeah, I just watched him in Glass Onion a couple weeks ago.
yeah, oh yeah. Why did I not think of that? That movie, I like that movie a lot.
That was
by the
good.
way.
That was good. Yeah.
And he's good in it, I think.
I wish he was in
but
it more.
I don't know, like outside of that though. I don't know if there's another performance that to me is like, yes, I fucking love Dave Bautista and that.
While you talk, I'm going to pull it up because he has a brand new one about to come out.
I know he was in like that Netflix movie Army of the Dead. I didn't see that. He was in a movie last year with Kumail Nanjiani, I think is how you say it, Stuber.
Yeah.
I haven't seen either of those. What were you gonna say?
He's about to be in a new movie. It comes out February 3rd, Knock at the Cabin. He's the
I
main
did hear
character.
about this. I'm actually excited for that too.
Yeah, he is in that movie, main character. Interesting trailer. If you haven't seen it, give it a look. It's an interesting concept of a movie. So
I'm
we'll
not
see how
shocked
goes.
that Dom likes the idea of that movie, isn't that?
Oh, I don't
supposed
know
to
if
be?
I do like it. I
Oh,
don't know
really?
what I think about it.
I'm intrigued by it. Is what I
Yes,
should say.
That's the word, I think.
I think the plot's intriguing. I don't know if I've actually seen the trailer though. So
It's interesting. Yeah.
the plot synopsis I thought sounded interesting. It's supposed to be a horror movie, ain't it?
in a way, but like they're not necessarily like tormenting this family either. They're
Yeah.
trying to do it for the good of the world. It's a weird
And so it
concept
sounds
for a
almost
movie.
like a
Yeah,
thriller more so.
yeah.
Um, Meanwhile, though, if I look back on like John Cena's acting career, I think a lot of people liked him in that Bumblebee Transformers movie. I haven't seen that,
Me
but
neither.
there's a comedy that I think is very underrated. Have you ever seen the comedy Blockers?
I have heard my parents talk about it, but I've actually
That
not seen the film.
movie is hysterical. And
I want to
he
watch
is
it.
the best part about that
Really?
movie. He
That's
is
awesome.
so good in it. He plays like he plays against what you would expect from him in that movie, and it's so
Yeah.
good.
Do you like him in Suicide Squad?
Yes, yeah, he's
Yeah.
great in that as well. I didn't think about that one.
And they
Now he's
got
got a
the
whole
show.
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
those have kind of been the defining John Cena roles for me. I remember way back in the day, me and a couple buddies going to see 12 rounds back when
12
he was still
rounds and
wrestling.
he did Marine
The
too, right?
Marine, the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
one, he did the
Yep.
Marine. So
Mm.
that was a different time for John Cena. Meanwhile, The Rock has been in like so much. And
Yeah.
Dominic, you are an avid Rock fanboy.
I am. Yeah. So,
What is kind of what is your favorite
ooh.
Rock movie?
Oh man,
I'm
that's tough.
assuming I know you haven't seen a lot of movies.
I've seen a lot
Some
of
would
his.
say any, but I am assuming you've seen the majority of his.
Yeah. I mean, well, I want to say this. A lot of people don't really think that a lot of people say he always looks the same or has the same type of role in the movie, but like he's a humongous human being. You can only do so much with his capabilities, I suppose, in a movie. But I actually really enjoy. I think the one we've probably watched the most, and it's more of like a family thing. My dad loves it, so we would always watch it when I was younger and stuff. Walking Tall was
Oh,
a
okay.
really good
I
movie
wasn't
that we
expecting that.
liked. I personally really enjoy Rampage. I think it's a really fun, like
Oh, okay.
action-packed
Yeah,
movie.
Rampage. I thought you were gonna say when you were talking about like kids, I thought you were gonna say the game plan. I really like the game plan. Don't and fuck anybody who says otherwise.
Fun fact, and I don't know if you know this, my little sister's name is from the game plan, Peyton. That is why we named her that. So, yeah, that's a fun one. What was the he was the Tooth Fairy in a movie. I mean, he's been in a lot of movies. I haven't seen Black Adam, but apparently not good reviews. They kind of discontinued it from DC, I think he
Yeah.
announced as well. So I haven't seen it. I would like to see
Yeah,
it
they
because it's on
brought it.
HBO Max.
So there's some weird shit going on with that. I guess James Gunn was brought in. He's the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
over
Okay.
a Marvel side. DC brought him in, hired him to be kind of like the head guy and kind of creating their
Damn.
version of the
They probably paid him a
MCU.
bag, huh?
Yeah, to be like their version of what the guy I know you probably don't know his name, but Kevin Feige is like kind of the head
Okay.
creative guy for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. DC tried to do their cinematic universe and it kind of failed.
Yeah.
Black Adam was kind of the last. It just
Try.
it didn't do very well at the box office compared to what the projections were.
Right.
Personally, I actually think it's a pretty fun movie. Pretty action packed. It's kind of stupid at points, but like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't need to always have a movie that like makes me think or gives me all these like really big
Yeah.
messages. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to watch a popcorn
You want
action
to have
movie and
fun.
just enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trevor and Luke used to say the cheeseburger and beer.
Yeah. I like
Remember
that. I
that?
like that.
That's
Yeah.
the kind of movie that Black Adam is. And I think it's fine. I think he's good in it. A lot of people didn't like his performance. I thought he was good in it.
Well, it was like his first big superhero role,
Yeah.
so I
Well,
feel
he
like the
had been.
pressure was
I mean,
there.
he had been wanting to be Black Adam for like 15 years.
Yeah, a long time.
So I kind of feel bad for him that it's sort of
yeah.
flopped on him. But if I had to pick like my defining, we really went off the
We are
rails with this
tangenting
question.
here hard.
People are like, "What's this WWE talk on my MMA show?" My favorite, The Rock performance. I thought he was good in like Central Intelligence.
Oh, that is a good one. That is
Yeah,
so
he
funny.
kind of plays against type. I actually just watched the movie. Him and Kevin Hart were like the voice of DC League
Super
of Super
Pets.
Pets.
I love that movie.
I actually didn't really care for it, but I think him and Kevin Hart are
Oh
funny in it.
gosh, I love the Jumanji movies. Holy
Yeah,
crap, dude!
God, I'm
Holy
like
crap,
forgetting
dude!
some of these movies. You know, a really underrated one he did a while back. Have you ever heard of a movie called Snitch?
Actually, that might be one I've not seen. If I
So
remember correctly,
it's
I
a
don't think I've
smaller
seen it.
one. It's a smaller one. So it was like right after he did Fast Five, but yes, he's fucking yoked in Fast Five.
Yeah.
But then this was like 2013, I think. But he looks smaller in this movie, even though like, so it may have been filmed before. I don't know
Yeah.
how that worked, but it's kind of a smaller movie. But it's about, if I remember right, and I'm not going to remember the plot that well because I saw it in theaters
Does
back.
he have a son that gets kidnapped?
Yeah, he has like a
Okay.
son or a daughter that gets kidnapped, and Shane from The Walking Dead, John Bernthal.
Oh, nice. He
I
in it?
still refer to him as that, even though
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
kind of known for a lot of other things at this point. But John Bernthal's like one of the co-leads of the movie. He's like a former, um, he's like a guy that got out of that life, and The Rock needs to kind of infiltrate this group to get his son back. So he kind of enlists the
Okay.
help of John Berthel to kind of get him to blend in, whatever. It's pretty good
Yeah.
movie, and I think The Rock's great in it. It's one of his more like dramatic. This is kind of before he really became like the Rock action movie star like that
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
now. A movie that I really hated with him, but I wanted to like it, but man, I hated was that Baywatch. Did you ever
Yeah,
see
that
that?
was on
No.
TV the other day.
Whew.
It's just some
Ooh.
like dumb film,
Yeah,
you know,
boy,
like
man, that movie, woof, it stunk. But I think Israel Adesanya has the
okay,
potential.
yeah. Back to the
The other one I'll mention in kind of a Bautista capacity or being like a villain in like an action movie, Francis Ngannou's got the presence.
Oh yeah.
Or
Big
make
guy.
him like the villain of the next Black Panther movie.
Oh. Like an actual whole role as the villain,
Yeah,
not just some cameo.
maybe not the main villain, but make him like the heavy, like the muscle
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
main villain.
That would be cool.
I think that'd be pretty dope. But those are kind of the two. I mean, Connor is probably definitely the obvious one, but
But it all depends like on like Connor does have a great whoa, Connor has a personality type to be a movie star. This is taking me back to the time where we casted for Space Jam. Remember that?
oh
The
god,
MMA version. Tai Tuivasa, I think, would be hilarious in movies. I don't know why I'm thinking Tai Tuivasa, man. Who else could be good? It all depends on the role, but like you would assume that an MMA fighter would be in an action movie.
try to think of someone else who would have like the screen.
Michael Chandler could
presence.
probably be good in a movie.
Yeah,
The way he acts, his persona.
I mean Dustin. I think Dustin Poirier has the look. I don't know if he quite has
Yeah.
the chops or the want to do something like that. Donald Cerrone was in one of those movies that Ben Shapiro's like company produced or whatever.
Well, Michael Bisping did Triple X.
He did one of those, yeah. He
it.
did one of those, yeah. Michael
Um,
Bisping.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Paul Felder. Maybe that's just my selfish loving him of commentating that wants me to see him in
Paul
a film.
Felder. That's an interesting choice. I
Oh, dude,
wasn't expecting Paul Felder.
think about it. Tai Tuivasa could make some funny comedies.
we need like a
Make
buddy.
him the dad in a dumb comedy movie. It would be
You know what I want to see? I want to see like a buddy comedy.
okay.
I'm trying to think of what to call it. Like I want to see like I'm trying to think
Who
of
are
the
we
title off the top of
casting?
my head. So okay, it's a buddy comedy about
Okay.
two brothers
Okay.
who I'm trying to think of what they're doing. They both are in Hawaii. I think you
Okay.
kind of know where this might be going.
Okay.
Your brothers are Tai Tuivasa, Max Holloway.
Oh,
And then I'm trying to think of what the plot would be. For some reason, the only title I can think of is like pineapple on pizza. So like, that's all I can think of because pineapple. Because I'm associating pineapple with Hawaii. That's the only reason. That's all I can think of.
and what do they do in Pineapple on Pizza?
I'm thinking it's a buddy movie where they both work at a pizza shop.
They deliver pizzas.
Yes, but there's got to be something that happens, right? So how about this? They're delivering pizzas. They take the last pizza of the night to this guy's house. They find him dead in the house.
Okay.
So then they freak out,
Uh huh.
because cops show up right as they're leaving.
Okay.
Cops are like, freeze. They decide, drive off.
Yeah.
So now they're on the run,
Okay.
and they have to try to exonerate themselves at the same time.
And then the actual villain turns out to be, I don't know.
I'm
Cast to be determined.
thinking,
That's when you bring in a big actor, not a fighter.
I'm thinking that Tai Tuivasa can't help it because he's such a fun guy. He's doing shoeies, on this
Yes.
road trip
Yes.
and stuff. They go to this bar. He falls for the most attractive woman at the bar,
Okay.
who would be played by, I don't know, who's someone.
Margot Robbie.
No, I was going to name an MMA fight. We'll keep the
Oh.
MMA thing going.
Sorry. Okay.
Who's like Nam, you know this shit more than me. Name an attractive MMA fighter. Come on.
Let's
Like, who someone
go-
would fit with the vibe? Like,
You said at a bar.
like Mackenzie Dern.
Okay. Okay.
So he falls for Mackenzie Dern, and
Okay.
it seems like she falls for him back. But then by the end, you find out she was actually the villain all along and was just teasing him.
Okay.
And she murdered that guy because that was she had actually been his mistress and
Okay.
fell too hard.
Okay. Okay. I see. We're on to something here. The
Pineapple on pizza.
Pineapple on Pizza, directed and produced by the Below Average Joes. Who would have thought we would produce movies, Noah, with our brand expansion?
Wow, that was a struggle to get to the end there. As soon as I thought of the name, I'm like, fuck, I ain't gonna think of anything else. Pineapple on pizza. That's it.
That got me good, dude. Oh. All right.
Yeah, I guess that's man, that question really just
That was all over the place. We tend to have one or two of those per verbal sparring.
typically when you pick something up and carry it, you are taking that thing wherever you want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
This question picked us up and we were just along for the ride. I don't know what just happened. But Dominic, that is our final question, so we are going to wrap it up there. That is it for this edition of Verbal Sparring. But Dominic, that's not the way we end the show.
Nope.
We end it with a little segment called Closing Statements.
The
point of the show where me and Dominic can talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. So Dominic, do you have any closing statements for this Friday edition?
We mentioned it at the top, but I'm just going to polish it off a little more with the new content that we've kind of put out this week. You're seeing this obviously at the end, so everything's out for you guys to go check out, go see, go support if you think it's something that you would enjoy. For my side of the expansion, it was Battling for Bogey. It's a new golf channel that we created. It's in the description. It's on the featured channels list here on our channel. And we're just going to have weekly course vlogs. We're going out, we're doing challenges. We're having fun. We're trying to beat certain scores, matches, all the fun stuff. Noah gave me a great idea on his debut episode of This Weekend in Sports, so go listen there. But just implementing all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to just show the fun side of golf for the people that are, as I like to kind of make the tagline of the brand, it's presented by the Below Average Joes, created for the below average golfer. So if that fits you or thinks it's something that you'd enjoy watching, come give us a find. You can find us, much like the MMA show, at the Baj Golf on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So I'm pumped, man. I'm so excited. We're doing all this new stuff. It's going to be a huge year and beyond. Saddle up.
Well said, Dom. My closing statement is I have to pee. So my name's Noah Baker. That's Dominic Slee. We are but just two of the Below Average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Be there. Cage Side Rewind. God damn it.